In Capital News tonight, water levels on Lake Tanganyika continue to rise, causing destruction of homes and crops. President Dr. John Magufuli and President Dr. Mohamed Shein of Zanzibar hold talks in Dodoma. And in sports, the Athletics Association of Tanzania has urged regions to prepare their teams for the national championship scheduled to take place mid-August this year. And good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. I am Vanessa Victor. Let's get things started with the national news. And the water levels at Lake Tanganyika have risen by 300 meters, causing the destruction of crops and homes of residents living along the shores of the lake in Uvinza and Kigoma districts.
When we woke up on the next morning, there was such a strong tide, never seen before. This has affected us so much because there was a lot of water coming in at once. Traders have had to abandon trade along the shore. There has been an increase in the depth of Lake Tanganyika, which has caused a lot of damage. This was dry land, but as you can see, there is water everywhere. In 2006, a record was made, and it was at 772.84 meters from the sea level. But as we speak, it has increased by 3 meters.
The President of the United Republic of Tanzania and Chairman of Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM, Dr. John Magufuli, has met and held a closed meeting with the President of Zanzibar and Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Mohamed Shein, at State House in Chamwino, Dodoma. Prior to the talks, President Dr. Shein visited and inspected the construction project for the State House offices in Chamwino being built by Suma JKT.
Mkubwa na wale ambao watapata bahati ya kushuhudia ujenzi ukimalizika na jengo hili kuzinduliwa.
This is a big construction project, and those who will be able to see the project once complete will appreciate how Tanzania is focusing on quality and durability. I've seen how much has been invested in this government. I pray for President Magufuli all the best in leading our country.
Opposition Chadema Party has opened doors to interested candidates for the presidential election, telling them to submit their applications. This was said in Dar es Salaam by the Secretary General of Chadema, John Mnyika, who also spoke on the issue of cooperation with other parties during this year's general election.
Kwa kuwa kama mnafahamu, nchi yetu bado inakabiliwa na janga la corona.
As you know, our country is still facing the coronavirus pandemic, and under such circumstances, as a party, we are taking every precaution, which includes conducting short meetings. I've called you here today to inform Chadema party members and Tanzanians at large that Chadema has opened 2 key doors towards the 2020 general election. One is to allow presidential hopefuls through Chadema ticket to declare their intention on removing, and the second door is on discussion with other political parties who have true intention on removing CCM party from power to come and enter into discussion with us on party participation.
The Prevention and Combating of Corruption Bureau, PCCB, has confirmed that they have detained 4 officials of the National Environment Management Council, NEMC, following various allegations, including corruption. PCCB has also detained Eliud Kijau, an officer in the Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism, following alleged embezzlement of more than 4 billion shillings.
Tunapenda kuthibitishia umma kwamba ni kweli taasisi ya kuzuia na kupambana na rushwa TAKUKURU makao makuu inawashikilia watumishi wanne wa baraza.
We would like to confirm that PCCB HQ is holding 4 suspects from NEMC on various allegations, including corruption. We would like to confirm that PCCB headquarters is holding 4 suspects from NEMC on various charges, including corruption. The 4 are now in PCCB custody in Upanga, Dar es Salaam. The 4 suspects are Deus Dedit Katwale, Obadia Machupa Magori, Matiku, and Lydia Nyinondi. The suspects have been under investigation on various charges, of which is now complete.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Simon Siro, has visited Komi Mchangani Island in Buchosha district, Mwanza region, where hundreds of farmers have been left homeless after a fire burnt down 516 trader stalls, 4 trucks used to transport fish to factories in Mwanza, and also caused the death of 1 person on May the 22nd of this year.
Lakini ile boti ilikuwa inasumbua kule Uganda ya Waganda.
A boat owned by some Ugandans had been causing problems. That has also been confiscated. I met with the IGP for Uganda in Kagera and we spoke. We are in agreement that his people should not be causing trouble in Tanzania. You must not allow yourselves to be used by any politician to cause disturbance or peace. Theft of fish and equipment, a local police station in Kombe Island, and participatory protection after the fire incident which destroyed the office.
Kamanda, hapa umetudhihirishia kwamba ulinzi na amani waziwani upo.
You've assured us of security, yet we are being robbed. Then how can this be okay?
The police forces killed a suspected criminal at Nyakanazi area in Biharamulo district, Kagera region, during a fire exchange during a robbery attempt. The suspect is said to be part of a group of criminals who have been involved in carjacking.
Kupigwa risasi katika harakati za kutaka ku.
He was shot dead as he was trying to make an arrest on a group of criminals who were getting ready to commit a crime. After search was conducted, traditional weapons were found along with knives.
The Minister of State in the President's Office for Regional Administration and Local Government, Suleiman Jafo, has directed the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry to form a team to investigate Mlele District Council following failure to complete development projects, including the district's hospital and Ilunde Health Center.
Some of the projects in Mlele District Council have not been completed. TAMISEMI Secretary General must form a team that will come to investigate Mlele District Council. You know that at least 75,000 bricks were counterfeit. You must work hard and avoid tarnishing others. You're here to work.
That's all for the national news. International news is next. In international news, 54 people have recovered from the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, the highest number since Kenya reported its first recovery on April 1st. Health Cabinet Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman said this brings the total number of recoveries to 553.
They must take the responsibility of taking care of themselves and those around them. It is also now common knowledge that many entertainment joints have opened up for full business. As I said earlier, as you walk around, you get the feeling that people are either anticipating that there is going to be a relaxation of the measures that have been put in place, and have moved ahead of that expectation by actually behaving in that manner that things are back to normal. I want to remind ourselves that the only measure that has been relaxed is the measure that allowed operation of restaurants and eateries, again based on strict adherence to the social and physical distancing measures.
Uganda has confirmed 18 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the tally of cases to 507. 4 of the new cases are truck drivers who arrived from South Sudan via Elegu, while 2 of the cases are from Malaba. The Ministry of Health has said 12 cases are alert and contacts to previously confirmed cases. And the government of Rwanda has imposed lockdown measures in Rusizi and Rubavu districts due to the increase of coronavirus infections. The measures come as Rwanda confirms the death of a police officer caused by COVID-19. Rwanda has confirmed 384 cases, 269 recoveries and 2 deaths.
I'm happy to get back to work. I didn't expect that we could be allowed to work this much soon. We're grateful to the government for the decision made.
And to reactivate tourism, France has started allowing people to travel throughout the country. Spain is discussing travel between regions, as well as Germany, which has had 2 long weekends to test out internal travel. Joining us with more on this is Thomas Sparrow, political correspondent with our media partner, Deutsche Welle. Thomas, what has been the result of the test in internal travel so far?
It is still difficult to say whether these 2 long weekends that Germany had actually resulted in an increase in the number of infected people, or on the contrary, whether it remains as it is. Normally, statistics come after about 1.5 to 2 weeks, so it is still a bit too early to find that out on the whole. However, it has been stated that except for some specific cases where, for example, beaches had to be closed off because they had reached the maximum capacity, that in most cases people did behave cautiously, and it seems that it worked so far. And it seems that it worked so far in particular because as a result of that, although it was something that was also planned beforehand, the German government announced this week that as of June 15th, they will be lifting the travel warning that they had in place for most European countries, and that in turn they will change that warning for travel advice that will be specific for each country, obviously depending on the situation there, and that will or could at least change if numbers increase. So basically that gives German tourists and German citizens the decision in their hands to decide whether they will also travel abroad in their summer holidays. But again, if you look specifically at the 2 long weekends, which were initially obviously weekends to have a look whether things were working out, the reopening of hotels or holiday apartments or tourist attractions, it is still too early to say in a conclusive manner whether that resulted in an increase in the number of cases.
Now, speaking of that, the next viable step would be towards international travel, and even though it is still restricted, but with restrictions gradually being lifted, what is to be expected?
What is to be expected is a new sense of normality. That's something that officials have been stressing on various occasions, that this is not necessarily going back to last summer or the summer before that or the holidays before that, that in this particular case we're dealing with a very different situation on different fronts. So on the one hand, obviously many people are concerned. It is unclear whether they will actually travel, even if the borders are open, because this has obviously hit families in particular. Many families do not have necessarily the means to now travel abroad, so it is uncertain what would happen if the borders are reopened, if people would still travel or if people would prefer to stay, for example, at home or travel locally. That's one of the big questions there. Another big question, obviously, is how you coordinate all this, because it means that you will probably have, obviously, face masks at airports or social distancing in place, whether, for example, airlines have to be or have to readapt to the circumstances. That is also a big question. For now, it has been described as a sort of phased reopening, a phased approach to reopening the tourist sector, which in Europe is particularly important. In Europe, it accounts to about 10% of economic output in the European Union, and as such, it is something that for many countries is very important, in particular countries that were hit very badly by the coronavirus. We're talking about Italy, Spain, France, for example, and as such, it is something that has to be done carefully and responsibly if the tourist sector is going to be reopened, and at the same time, future waves of infections are to be limited or restricted.
Yeah, and on that, how will now this impact the reactivation of tourism, not only in Germany, but in Europe as a whole?
That's correct. So basically, this is something that has to be coordinated as well, because you're not only talking about decisions that one country can take individually. It is not like opening museums or opening restaurants where one particular country can decide when to do that depending on the situation on the ground. If you're talking about international travel, there has to be some sort of international coordination, even if it's only bilateral, even if it's only between border countries. So what has happened so far, something that is of concern for a few people, for a few analysts at least, is a sort of pockets of reopening where countries in similar situations are announcing how exactly they will reopen travel between those countries. There has been concern in particular because this is something that officials would like to avoid in general, that some countries remain isolated, whether others are reopening and are going back to this sense of new normality that we've been discussing. So this is something that has to be coordinated on the wider level at the European Union, and that's why the EU as well has been discussing and actually put in place plans to have this phased approach to the reopening of the tourist sector.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas, for that insight, and until next time, please continue to stay safe.
Until next time, and stay safe.
And that special report ends our international news. We'll be back with business news after this short break.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
We believe that the driver is the customer.
To change the mindset of traditional HR to the digitalization.
Make sure that everybody can get some access to financial services.
And once we understand the vision of our leaders, we then need to be behind them and help them in achieving that vision.
Business have involved mercantile operations, trade guilds, or shared agricultural production, infrastructure, construction, financial sectors, tourism, and mining. Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
And now in business news. A day after new fuel prices were announced by the Energy and Water Regulatory Authority, EWURA, wholesale fuel suppliers and retailers have expressed their views, with some commending the decline in fuel prices and others concerned on losses incurred.
Profit that will be made is even lower to what they used to make before. If it was any other kind of business, then we could have found other means of making profit. But fuel prices are regulated by the regulator. As drivers, we are going to enjoy the benefit because if you put fuel of 5,000 shillings, one can go to Buza and come back. Considering the fact that we are coming from economic challenges due to coronavirus, this will actually help in putting life at ease.
And the Permanent Secretary of Agriculture, Gerald Kisaya, has said his ministry is implementing a communication strategy for Tanzanian embassies abroad aimed at promoting horticulture products in order to get a reliable market and enable farmers to become more productive.
Na kwa zaidi kwa kutumia hii taasisi yetu ya TAHA.
Through Taha, we believe that it is high time right now for more revolutions, although there are some challenges including increase in production of such produce so that we could reach targets set. Unfortunately, in our country, horticulture practices are still minimal. As the Ministry of Agriculture, we're ready to collaborate with Taha so as to improve the sector.
Kwamba sasa hivi tunauza mazao kwa mfano.
Right now we are selling products worth over $700 million US, but if we look at the sector, there are chances of selling for up to $3 billion US because we have the potential and opportunities of reaching that far, only if the government will collaborate with the private sector.
We have chosen Tanzania because simply it has the best climate conditions for our product. In terms of night temperatures, but also day temperatures. Basically, it doesn't become too cold and it doesn't become too hot in this northern region of Tanzania. We've also have very skilled labor. We employ 360 people permanently, and that is a huge advantage to us because people are already working with us for a long time.
Tanzania Revenue Authority TRAs urged taxpayers to make their payments now instead of waiting until the last minute so as to avoid long queues, particularly at this time when the country is fighting against the coronavirus pandemic.
Many people tend to wait for last minutes to complete their dues, something that will cause long queues for services that requires them to come to the office. Meanwhile, we strongly advise for other services to be done online so that we reduce gatherings at our offices.
And now sports news is next after this break.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him and he's going to be dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Position, Joaquinho, he did lose to Len.
And now in sports. The Athletics Association of Tanzania has urged regions to prepare their teams as well as funds for participation in the national championship scheduled to take place on the 18th and 16th of August this year.
Event ambayo kubwa saizi tunayoitegemea na ambayo tunajipanga sasa hivi kuifanya ni mashindano ya taifa ambayo yatafanyika tarehe 15 na 16 mwezi wa 8. Maandalizi yashaanza na yanakwenda vizuri na tunafarijika kwamba tumepata wadau.
The National Sports Council has said that it is satisfied with the report on how sports associations are planning to resume activities amid the fight against COVID-19.
Asilimia niseme 90 ya vyama vimeleta mipango mikakati yao, wengine wakionyesha ni jinsi gani watakuwa wanajikinga kama vile kuweka maji yanayotiririka katika maeneo ya michezo, lakini pia kuweka vitakasa mikono ambavyo ndio njia kubwa ya kuweza kujikinga na maambukizi ya gonjwa la corona.
And the Premier League is close to presenting a provisional fixture list for the remainder of the season to its clubs, with the unlucky ones facing a sequence of 3 games in 7 days. Here are more details.
Team are working to finalize a schedule that features full match rounds on 6 long weekends, beginning with Friday 19th of June to Monday 22nd of June, and 3 midweek slots incorporating games on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. The intention is for the midweek rounds to be 23rd to 25th of June, 7th to 9th of July and 14th to 16th of July. There are 2 additional fixtures which are the games in hand from when the season was stopped: Manchester City vs Arsenal and Aston Villa vs Sheffield United, which will be the first to be played on Wednesday 17th of June. The hope is to finish on the weekend of 25th and 26th of June with a cup final Saturday of August.
And Everton are hopeful of staging the Merseyside derby at Goodison Park when the Premier League season restarts, after requesting a meeting of the local safety advisory group.
Liverpool visit to Goodison on 20th of June, when Jurgen Klopp's team could win the club's first league title in 30 years, was among several high-risk matches that Mark Roberts, the UK's National Football Police chief, wanted switched to neutral venues amid concerns over demands on police and fans gathering outside stadiums. Merseyside Police, however, appeared to contradict Roberts on Friday by stating they had no objections to policing matches in Liverpool. Everton and Liverpool oppose plans to make them play at neutral venues, and the former have confirmed the intention to host the derby by formally asking the advisory group to convene the meeting.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin. On behalf of everyone who worked to bring you this bulletin, I am Vanessa Victor. Thank you for watching. Good night and stay safe.